He walked in with full financing, a steady job, and a dream. But before he could even test drive the car, the cops were called on him. What happened next left a nation talking. The lot shimmered in the late afternoon sun as Terrell Gaines pulled up in his 2012 Honda Accord. He had driven this car for over a decade. Every scratch, every faded spot on the hood held a memory. But today, he was ready to move on. Not because the car gave up, but because he could finally afford something better. After months of 14-hour days and an exhausting contract that nearly cost him his sanity, Terrell had come out the other side with a bonus that finally made his dream possible. He stepped out, adjusting his sunglasses. Polo shirt tucked in, fresh khakis, and the unmistakable walk of a man who knew exactly what he came for. He wasn't there to browse. He already knew the specs of the SUV he wanted, down to the trim and towing capacity. All he needed was a test drive, a handshake, and a pen. The showroom at Beckman Auto Group in Charleston, South Carolina, was unusually quiet for a Tuesday. A young white salesman, mid-20s, thin frame, short blonde hair, watched Terrell walk in. His name tag read, Kyle. "Hey there, can I help you with something?" Kyle asked, his tone polite but flat. Terrell smiled and held out his hand. "Yeah, I'm here to look at the 2024 Navigator L Reserve. Got the pre-approval right here," he said, pulling out a neatly folded letter from his jacket pocket. Kyle glanced at it without taking it. "Okay, you want to see the sticker first? It's priced pretty high." "I'm aware. I already ran the numbers. I'm comfortable with it." Terrell replied, still smiling, still polite. There was a pause long enough for Terrell to feel it. Not panic, just a change in temperature. A moment too long to ignore. Kyle finally motioned toward the lot. "It's around back. I'll grab the keys." "Mind if I ask what you do for a living?" "Software engineer," Terrell said simply. "Contracted on a logistics upgrade for Port of Charleston." Yeah? That stuff's complicated," Kyle muttered, as if trying to piece together a puzzle that didn't quite fit. While Kyle went inside to fetch the keys, Terrell wandered outside to the back of the building, where the navigators were lined up. He stopped next to a black one, deep gloss, chrome wheels, cream interior. It was everything he'd visualized over the past 3 years, but Kyle didn't come back. Instead, another man walked out, mid-40s, dark blue dress shirt, grey goatee, stiff body language. His name tag read, Travis, Manager. Terrell's smile stayed, but his jaw tightened ever so slightly. "Afternoon," Travis said. "Kyle said you're interested in the reserve." "Yes, sir. I've got financing through Palmetto Credit. My approval letter is in the folder," Terrell replied, extending the packet again. Travis didn't take it either. "Just curious, what made you decide on the Navigator?" Terrell tilted his head. "I've been eyeing it for a while. Needed something that can handle long trips, tech features, and family stuff." "You've got a big family?" Travis asked. Terrell hesitated. "No, but I look after my niece and nephew on weekends. It helps to have space." Travis gave a short nod, but didn't look convinced. "Mind if I ask how much you're putting down?" Terrell blinked. "I mean, it's all in the paperwork. The letter details the financing, including my down payment." I know, Travis said quickly. "Just for conversation's sake." Terrell exhaled lightly. This wasn't conversation. This was vetting. He had answered these kinds of questions 100 times before, but not here, not now, and not when he was trying to buy something he could clearly afford. Kyle returned, empty-handed. "Sorry, keys are locked in the test drive drawer. Only the senior manager can open that." "Might be a bit." Terrell stared at both of them. "Is there a reason I'm not being shown the car I asked for?" Travis rubbed his hands together. No, it's just protocol. Things have to be cleared, especially with high-end vehicles." Terrell looked back at the SUV. "I came ready. You can verify everything in 5 minutes." But instead of grabbing the folder, Travis glanced at Kyle, then back at Terrell. The air shifted again. But something told Terrell this wasn't about protocol, and the real test had just started. Terrell stood next to the Navigator for several minutes, watching the two men whisper inside the showroom. They weren't in a rush. One leaned against a desk, the other scrolled through something on a tablet. No keys, no clipboard, no car. Just waiting. For what, he wasn't sure. He checked the time. 4:36 p.m. He had planned to pick up groceries after this, maybe stop by his sister's house for dinner. But now, his plans felt like they belonged to someone else. His stomach tightened, though he hadn't moved. A quiet type of frustration crept in. Not loud, not dramatic, but cold and familiar. Inside, Travis stepped out again, arms crossed. "Mind coming back inside for a minute?" he asked. Terrell followed, walking past two sales associates who suddenly found their phones more interesting than anything else in the room. Inside Travis's glass-walled office, Terrell took a seat. Travis remained standing. Kyle leaned against the doorframe. "So," Travis started, trying to sound casual, "we just want to double-check a few things." "Like what?" Terrell asked. "Your credit letter. Do you mind emailing it instead of handing over a printout?" "Sure," Terrell replied calmly. He opened his phone, found the PDF from Palmetto Credit Union, and sent it to the address on the business card Travis had given him. Then he sat there while Travis typed slowly on his desktop. "You have a LinkedIn?" Travis asked suddenly. Terrell looked up. "Yeah? Why?" "Just for verification. Want to make sure everything lines up." Kyle snorted a laugh from the doorway. Travis didn't even flinch. Terrell narrowed his eyes. "What do you think is going to line up on LinkedIn that isn't on my loan documents?" Travis didn't answer. He kept typing. After a beat, Terrell spoke again, his voice quiet but firm. "You didn't ask the guy who walked out of here with a Tahoe 15 minutes ago if he had LinkedIn. You didn't ask where he works or how big his family is." "That guy's a regular customer," Travis shot back. "No, he's not," Terrell replied. "I saw your interaction. First time, just like me." Travis looked away. Another associate knocked gently and poked her head in. "Hey, Travis, you got a minute?" "Later," he muttered. The woman looked at Terrell, paused, and left. Then came the kicker. Travis leaned forward slightly, choosing his words. "Look, we've just had situations. People trying to pose as buyers, walking off the lot with cars under false approvals. I'm not saying that's you. Just being careful." "Careful?" Terrell repeated. "So you assume fraud?" "No, we just... You know how long I've been working? You know how hard I worked to get here?" Silence. "Do I look like someone who needs to fake my way into a car?" No answer. Travis shifted. Kyle cleared his throat and looked down. Terrell stood. "You want to verify something? Call the credit union. They'll tell you everything you need to know. But I won't sit here like I'm applying for parole." He walked toward the exit of the office. Travis didn't stop him. Kyle moved aside. Back outside, Terrell leaned against the railing near the lot. His phone buzzed. His sister, probably checking in. He didn't answer. He needed to breathe. Behind him, another customer watched from a distance. A middle-aged woman in jeans and a blazer. She'd been sitting in the waiting area. Her eyes followed Terrell as if she knew something wasn't right. Inside, Travis picked up the phone. "Yeah, it's Travis. We've got a situation. Can you send a unit over? Just want to be safe." But what Travis didn't know was that someone else had started recording. Quietly, from across the lot. The heat outside had shifted, not from the weather, just the weight of it all pressing down. Terrell stood alone by the SUV, arms crossed, trying to keep calm. A calm man isn't threatening. A calm man is safe. That's what they say, right? But sometimes, no matter how still you stand, the storm still finds you. Back inside, Travis paced his office while Kyle peeked out the window like they were waiting on a delivery. But they weren't expecting a shipment. They were expecting backup. The call had already been placed. A report of a suspicious individual. Possible fraudulent activity, potential confrontation. Code words that said nothing and everything. 3 miles away, Officer Brett Lanning received the dispatch. He'd been on the force in Charleston for 8 years. Nothing in the call screamed danger, but the words confrontation and luxury dealership made him sit up straight. He took his time getting there. Didn't hit the lights. Outside the showroom, Terrell checked his phone. 2 missed calls from his sister, a text from his friend Theo. "How'd it go? You driving off the lot yet?" He didn't answer. He wasn't sure how to explain what this was. It wasn't outright. It wasn't loud. It just sat in the room like smoke, subtle, invasive, always hanging in the air. Behind him, the woman in the blazer had moved to her car, phone angled low. She wasn't filming out of boredom. Something had clicked for her. Terrell turned to head back inside when the sound of a car slowing down caught his ear. He looked up. A black SUV with police lights, no sirens, pulled into the parking lot. 2 officers stepped out. One was Brett. The other, Officer Jen Morano, was younger, a little more cautious in her movements. They walked with a purpose, not urgent, but alert. Terrell stayed still, not out of fear, out of calculation. The lead officer approached. "Sir, can we speak with you for a moment?" Terrell raised an eyebrow. "Sure. What's this about?" The officer kept his hand near his belt, not on the weapon, but close enough to say, "Don't move too fast." "We got a call from the dealership. They had some concerns about a possible issue with paperwork." Terrell looked directly at him. "My name is Terrell Gaines. I have pre-approval from my credit union. I've done nothing wrong." The officer nodded, still wary. "You mind showing ID?" Terrell handed over his license and the printed approval letter. "I came here to buy a car. That's all." While Officer Morano took the documents and began checking them against a mobile tablet, Officer Lanning glanced toward the glass doors. Travis and Kyle stood there, arms crossed, watching like they were the ones wronged. "You've been here how long?" Lanning asked. "About an hour. I came in, told them what I wanted, and they've been dodging ever since. Now this." Officer Morano looked up from the tablet. "Everything checks out. His financing is legit. No issues on record." Lanning looked back at the dealership. Inside, Kyle stepped away from the window, face pale. "What would you like us to do, sir?" Lanning asked. Terrell raised his eyebrows. "That's your question? You were called here. Now that it's clear I've done nothing, maybe you should be asking them why I'm being treated like this." Lanning didn't answer. The woman in the blazer stepped forward. "I've been here the whole time," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "That man didn't raise his voice once. He didn't argue. He was patient. They just didn't like him." Lanning turned to her. "Ma'am, do you have video of the interaction?" She held up her phone. "Sure do. Want me to airdrop it?" Officer Morano took the phone and reviewed the video. It showed everything. Terrell trying to explain himself. Travis deflecting. Kyle smirking in the background. It didn't scream racism, but it didn't have to. It whispered it. Officer Lanning walked back toward the dealership. Inside, Travis stepped forward like he had something to say. But whatever it was, it stopped short in his throat. Terrell watched him through the glass. But this wasn't over. And the real fallout was only just beginning. By the time Officer Lanning stepped inside Beckman Auto, the dealership's staff looked like kids caught sneaking out past curfew. The swagger Travis wore earlier had vanished, replaced with something tighter around the eyes. Kyle leaned against the back wall, arms crossed like a shield. Lanning didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The silence did most of the work. "Mind explaining why we were called here?" he asked Travis. Travis cleared his throat. "There was some uncertainty about the customer's credentials. We've had incidents before. We just wanted to be safe." "Uncertainty?" Lanning asked. "Because everything he showed us checks out." Travis gestured vaguely. "Look, we have to protect ourselves. Luxury vehicles get targeted for fraud all the time. We've had issues. And you thought this was one of those situations?" Lanning asked, flat. Travis didn't answer directly. He knew better than to admit to profiling on record. But he didn't apologize either. He just stood there, letting his silence fill the room with all the words he wouldn't say. Outside, Terrell leaned against the SUV he came to buy. His hands were in his pockets, his breath slow, but his chest felt tight. Like he'd been holding in something heavy for far too long. He didn't want to look angry. That would only make the story easier to twist. Officer Morano returned his documents with care. "You're good, sir, and I'm sorry for how this played out." He nodded once. "Not your fault." "I know," she replied softly. But still, the woman with the phone, her name was Beth Garrison, a teacher from Mount Pleasant, stood nearby, still holding her phone. She wasn't just a bystander anymore. She'd become part of the story without asking for it, and she wasn't backing down. "Are you filing a complaint?" she asked Terrell, her voice low but firm. He looked over. "Not yet. I hope you do. That was disgusting." He didn't respond. There wasn't much to say. Inside, the manager finally stepped back out. "Mr. Gaines," Travis called. "If you'd still like to move forward with the purchase, we can—" Terrell turned around slowly. "No." Travis blinked. "No?" he repeated, trying to recover his footing. "I came here with everything ready. You ignored me. You questioned me. You called the police on me. And now you want to make a sale." "It wasn't personal," Travis said too quickly. Terrell's voice stayed steady. "That's exactly what it was." The words cut the air like glass. A few more customers had trickled in by then. They weren't close enough to hear the whole exchange, but they saw enough. They saw the cops. They saw the tension. They saw Terrell refusing the deal. Beth turned her camera back on. Terrell didn't raise his voice, didn't make a speech. He just looked around at the people in the lot, looked at the black Navigator he had wanted so badly, and walked away, straight to his car. He got in, shut the door, and sat for a moment. No music, no call, no ignition. Just silence. Not because he was broken, but because he was processing. Then he turned the key, pulled out of the lot, and left. No drama, no threats, just quiet power. Behind him, Beth uploaded her video with a short caption. "Black man tries to buy a car. Staff calls the police. You tell me what part of this makes sense." By nightfall, it had nearly 500,000 views. But what that video triggered, across phones, timelines, and living rooms, was bigger than any of them expected. That night, the video hit social media like a dropped match in dry grass. It didn't need flashy edits or dramatic music. Just the raw, steady footage of Terrell standing still while authorities surrounded him. His calm was the loudest part of it. Beth Garrison's post was reshared by a local activist group, then picked up by a regional journalist who recognized the dealership in the background. By morning, it was on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. The hashtags weren't clever. They were direct. "Buying while black," #Beckman Auto /Charleston calls cops. By 8 o'clock a.m., Beckman Auto's inbox was full. Emails from former customers, news outlets, even a few national civil rights attorneys. Their voicemail couldn't keep up. The dealership's Facebook rating dropped from 4.8 stars to 2.3 overnight. The comments were brutal and relentless. "Is this how you treat paying customers? Do you verify LinkedIn accounts for everyone, or just the ones that make you uncomfortable? Shameful. You lost my business for good." Inside the showroom, Travis was pale, jaw clenched, trying to hold it together. Kyle tried to delete his own social media accounts, but it was too late. Screenshots were everywhere. "I didn't say anything racist," he kept insisting. "You didn't have to," one of the receptionists muttered under her breath. The dealership's owner, Richard Beckman, a man in his 60s with more money than patience, stormed in just before noon. He slammed the office door shut and pulled up the video. "This is what I wake up to?" he barked at Travis. "What the hell were you thinking?" "I was following protocol," Travis replied, flustered. "High-value car, unverified identity. He had pre-approval." Beckman snapped. "And you called the cops? Are you out of your damn mind?" Kyle tried to speak, but Beckman cut him off with a glare. "We're issuing a statement, now. I want this out within the hour." The dealership scrambled to clean the mess. Their first attempt at a public response was a disaster, a cold, vague apology that said nothing. "We regret the situation that occurred and are reviewing our internal protocols to ensure all customers are treated fairly." The comment section erupted. "Regret the situation? That's not an apology. That's damage control. Say his name. Say what you did." Meanwhile, Terrell was sitting in his apartment, laptop open, coffee untouched. His phone buzzed every few minutes, friends checking in, journalists asking for interviews, attorneys offering representation. His sister called. This time, he answered. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," he said after a pause. "Just tired. They made you look like a threat for trying to buy a car." "I know. What are you going to do?" He stared out the window for a long second. "Not sure yet, but I'm not letting this slide." His friend Theo called next. "Man, I saw the video. You went through all that and still kept your cool. I would have lost it. I thought about it." Terrell admitted. "But then what? They'd spin it. See? Aggressive, loud, dangerous. They don't get that out of me." By early afternoon, local news outlets were at the dealership. A few protesters stood out front with handmade signs. "He was a customer, not a criminal. We're not threats. We're shoppers." Terrell wasn't there. He didn't want to stand in front of cameras. Not yet. Instead, he answered an email from a local journalist named Camille Rivers. She requested a sit-down, just him and a small crew. He hesitated, then agreed. They met at a public library the next day. No lights, no dramatic setup, just a corner table and a couple of microphones. Camille leaned in. "Do you want justice?" Terrell thought for a moment. "I want the next guy who walks in looking like me to leave with his keys instead of being treated like a criminal. If this helps make that happen, then yeah, I want that." But the dealership had no idea how far this would reach, or how quickly the story was about to outgrow their control. By Friday morning, the story had jumped from regional headlines to national conversation. News anchors debated the footage. Panelists dissected Terrell's calm under pressure. Think pieces flooded the internet with titles like "The Cost of Presumption" and "When a Loan Letter Isn't Enough." Charleston's mayor issued a brief statement calling the incident unfortunate and an opportunity for reflection. Terrell read it twice and closed the tab without finishing. Back at Beckman Auto, the pressure was relentless. Protesters lined the sidewalk every morning, holding signs that grew sharper with each passing day. More than a few customers cancelled upcoming purchases. At least one major financing partner paused their relationship with the dealership, citing reputational risk. Inside, Travis barely spoke above a whisper anymore. Kyle stopped coming in altogether after his full name and work history were posted on a community watch forum. The receptionist gave her notice, tired of fielding angry calls and being asked questions she had no part in answering. On Saturday, Beckman Auto issued a second statement. This time it was different. "We want to publicly apologize to Mr. Terrell Gaines. Our handling of his visit to our dealership was wrong. Mr. Gaines came with proper documentation, respect, and a clear intent to purchase a vehicle. He deserved better from us, and we failed. We are committed to retraining our staff, reviewing our policies, and reaching out to Mr. Gaines privately. We apologize not just to him, but to our entire community." It was better, but not enough. That night, Terrell sat down with Camille Rivers again, this time for a follow-up piece. "They're scrambling now," she said, flipping through her notes. "Does any of it feel genuine to you?" "I think they're scared," Terrell replied. "Scared of losing money, scared of the attention, scared of what this says about them." "And how do you feel?" He leaned back in the chair, eyes steady. "I don't need an apology. I needed respect. That's not something you hand out after the fact. It's something you show up front. They failed at that. Do you plan to sue?" Terrell paused. "I've talked to a few attorneys. But honestly, it's not about the lawsuit. It's about the message. You don't get to treat people like suspects just because they don't fit your expectations." Camille closed her notebook. "I think people needed to hear that." He nodded. "So did I." Later that evening, he took a walk near the waterfront to clear his head. He passed two teenagers watching the video on a phone, headphones split between them. "That's the guy," one of them whispered. Terrell kept walking. He wasn't looking for recognition. He just wanted his dignity back. A few days later, something unexpected happened. A different dealership, Gordon and Hines Motors, located across town, reached out with a private message. The owner, Leland Hines, wrote personally, Mr. Gaines, I saw what happened to you, and it was unacceptable. If you're still interested in buying a vehicle, we'd be honored to work with you, with full respect and transparency. Terrell didn't respond right away. He wasn't sure what to make of it, but after thinking it over, he agreed to visit. Quietly, no press, no camera crew. When he walked in, Leland himself met him at the door. No clipboard, no suspicion, just a handshake and a smile. "We're here for whatever you need," he said. They talked. They ran the numbers. No hoops, no sideways glances. Just a business transaction treated like any other. 2 hours later, Terrell drove off in a charcoal grey 2024 Navigator L Reserve. No police, no accusations, no apologies needed. Just keys. But even with the purchase complete, Terrell knew the real story wasn't about a car. It was about the people who tried to stop him from driving off in the first place. The Navigator sat parked in Terrell's driveway, spotless, not a fingerprint on it. For days he didn't even drive it, not because he wasn't proud, he was, but because it wasn't really about the car anymore. That SUV had turned into something else, a symbol of everything that had gone right in his life, and everything that had gone wrong in a single afternoon. He wasn't angry, not in the way people wanted him to be. He was focused. His inbox still filled with messages, strangers thanking him for his composure, parents sharing their own stories of being doubted in boardrooms, classrooms, and sales floors. One message hit harder than the rest. It came from a young man in Ohio. "I almost quit my job last week after being profiled by a customer. Your story helped me hold my head higher. Thank you." Terrell read it twice. And then again. He hadn't set out to be an example. But now, people were watching and listening. So he wrote a post. Nothing dramatic, just a picture of his new car and a caption. "Respect shouldn't depend on what you drive, how you dress, or what you do for a living." I didn't speak out for sympathy. I did it because silence lets behavior like that continue. Say something, every time. Within hours, it had thousands of likes. And more importantly, shares. Conversations were starting, not just about Terrell, about policies, training, bias, and what fairness really looks like when no one's recording. Camille invited him on a podcast. He almost declined, but changed his mind last minute. "Why do you think this moment hit people so hard?" she asked on air. "I think people are tired," Terrell answered. "Tired of having to prove they're not a threat. Tired of the small humiliations that pile up until one day someone records it, and the whole country acts shocked." She let the silence sit. Then he added, "But maybe, just maybe, it wakes a few people up, makes them pause before they judge, makes them ask instead of assume. That's how change starts. It wasn't dramatic. It was honest. And it was real." The following week, Beckman Auto tried to move on. They announced sensitivity training and partnered with a community relations group. Travis was quietly let go. Kyle's name never appeared again on their staff list. But for many, the damage was already done. And the name Terrell Gaines stayed with them. He didn't file a lawsuit. He never demanded compensation. But his story became part of something bigger. One Saturday, he took his niece and nephew for a ride. The three of them laughing, windows down, music up. Just a regular guy with 2 kids in the back and peace on the dashboard. At a red light, a man in a pickup glanced over, did a double take, and then gave a nod. Not the performative kind, just acknowledgement. Terrell nodded back. He didn't need recognition, just respect. So the next time someone walks into a dealership with confidence and a folder of paperwork, maybe, just maybe, the staff will look up and see a customer, not a question mark. Because when you're treated with dignity from the start, you don't have to spend the rest of your life proving you deserve it. If this story made you feel something, anger, hope, frustration, relief, don't scroll past, share it, talk about it. And remember, silence never changed anything. Speaking up just might.